I want to tell you a little bit about my trip. My wife and I went to New Orleans to meet up with her mom, Judy, and her brother, Greg, to celebrate Judy's 80th birthday. We were down in the French Quarter. We did take a trip or three down to Bourbon Street. And if you don't know what Bourbon Street is, that is the birthplace, the hub of Mardi Gras, also known as Fat Tuesday, or let's get our yayas out before Lent. It's a true story. That was the whole purpose of it, was to celebrate and get all of our excitement out before we went into the Lent season. That time of, well, traditionally sacrifice, right? Giving up something for Lent is the term that we use. But in unity, the idea of Lent is an opportunity to fast from disempowering thoughts and to feast on spiritual truth. To let go of these thoughts that no longer serve us, to step into that spiritual truth that we know. You can see also I've got my famous Bourbon Street beads, and if you don't know how you obtain those during Mardi Gras, I suggest you ask a neighbor rather than looking it up on the internet. We were on Bourbon Street, and here's the story. Before you create any myths about your minister exposing himself on Bourbon Street to get the beads, I did not do that. I got this from my wife. Okay, before there are any messages going out, any texts going out, the minister's wife did not expose herself either. She got them from her 80-year-old mother. So let me describe Judy. Judy is about this tall, and she weighs, 30 pounds. She meditates every day. She's vibrant, she's feisty, she's upbeat. And so here we are walking down Bourbon Street, all the music playing and all the people dancing. Judy's dancing, Judy's excited. And up on the balcony, some of the younger women were like, hey, loving that, a role model for themselves. Probably thinking, I want to do that when I'm 80. Come down to Bourbon Street and dance. So they threw her a bunch of beads. And no, she did not have to do anything to earn them either. So Judy shared those with us. And that was our Bourbon Street experience. The wonderful thing about that idea of Lent, of letting go of those things that we're holding on to and sinking into spiritual truth, is that helps us get back into that spiritual essence of who we are on a daily basis, every day. And that's really what this book is about. Advanced tips for moving past all of the messages, all of the myths, all of the false beliefs that we've taken on in life, all of the biases that we've developed in life, letting go of that so that we can sink into our spiritual truth. Because those myths, messages, and beliefs erode our spiritual boundaries. They erode our sense of oneness. A spiritual boundary is that idea of here's where I begin at the center of my being, and here's where I end. In unity, we teach oneness, that we are one with the infinite. We're one with spirit, divine mind, divine love. Whatever word you want to use for it, we are one with that. For that is everywhere present, moving in through and as us every moment of the day. Unity also teaches that we're one with each other. We are spiritually one in spirit, and we're also individual in expression. Each one of us has a unique gift to give to the world. Each one of us brings something special to the world. And our spiritual boundaries allow us to recognize this is where I begin as a human being, as that individualized expression, and here's where I end. And a lot of our stress and strain and discomfort and frustrations come from blurring that boundary. Our spiritual boundary establishes balance between those two things of being divine or spiritual and having a human experience. It begins with self-awareness. It begins with this idea of knowing our oneness, practicing our spiritual values, stepping into our spiritual principles on a daily basis so that we can live more fully from that aspect. And with that self-awareness comes our interconnectedness, where we connect with one another, knowing where I begin and where I end, and where you begin and where you end. This book, Presence and Potential, Experiencing Your Higher Self and Live from Wholeness, has advanced tips on working through our human entanglements, working through our human discomforts, our human biases, our human myths and stories that we're telling ourselves to get us back into that spiritual essence and allow that spiritual interconnectedness in our relationships and in all that we do. Tip number 1, don't confuse closeness with sameness. In the book, Martha talks about this idea: know where you begin and you end. Know that, yes, we are close, but that doesn't mean we're always the same in our individuality. We're one in spirit, we're one in our divine nature, and yet we all have our own set of personalities, our own set of gifts and talents, our own set of foibles, and we know not to pick those up or own those for someone else. Don't confuse those two things. Sometimes we think, oh, we're all like-minded people. We're here in unity. Therefore, we all believe the same thing, right? Yeah, not so much. And that's okay. Because what we're looking at are beyond those beliefs and looking to that divine nature that's within us. And through that divine nature, being able to connect with one another. And not confusing that with our beliefs or our fears or our doubts. Number 2, avoid thinking in terms of good, bad. Avoid going from either or scenarios and go to both and. Life is a set of polarities. Life is a set of spectrums. Here, on one hand, we have bad. On the other hand, we have good. And everywhere in between, we are alpha and omega and everything in between. And at any point in time, we may be shifting back and forth along this spectrum of life. Life isn't black and white. Life is a myriad of colors. And when we take a step back from our I'm right, you're wrong, this is good, this is bad, when we can step back from that and see the perspective and see that there's a whole field, infinite possibilities between right and wrong. And we might get a better understanding of what is real and happening at that moment. We may be able to see, oh, this isn't just black and white. They're really talking about something in the middle. So being able to look at that and take a broader perspective allows us to be in a situation, pause, presence ourselves in the moment, take a deep breath, and see if we can understand what the other person is talking about. See if we can see a different component to this situation that we're uncomfortable with. See if there's something that we can learn from it and grow from it. So take a moment and allow yourself to be in that range this week. Because when you do those two things, it allows us to do the next 4. One is take a stand and be less anxious. Take a stand for what you believe in and be less anxious. Be less defensive. Be less dictatorship. Be less angry. What if you started those conversations with, here's my thinking. We hold our beliefs, we can take a stand, but we can do it non-reactively. We can do it without that anger and frustration, without suffering that we've created, and just simply be in that moment. Here's my thinking. It allows you to contain your own reactivity where others are reacting. Now, this is a superpower. And what's interesting is my wife Tiffany and I have created a symbiotic relationship in this way. If I get upset, she gets calm and mellow. It just naturally happens. When she gets upset, I get calm and mellow. And so the two of us, there's this yin and yang energy that goes on that just balances each other out, that supports one another during that crisis. So can you contain your reactivity while others are reactive? How did I contribute to the problem? Here's another advanced tool. In every situation, there are two sides to the story. In every discussion, there are two people, there are two opinions, there are two things going on. When I was in high tech, this was a few years ago, many years ago, I had a good friend of mine, and we were both working in the same place. We had a great relationship, and then something happened. And as I put it, he threw me under the bus. And he didn't own it, and he blamed me for it. And then he walked away. And then I walked away. And we didn't talk to each other for many years because we were so stuck in our own stuff. We were stuck in our belief of being right. We were stuck in our own victimness. Then one day he came to me and said, look, I want to apologize because this is what happened, and that's not really the way I wanted to be, and here's what I meant. And in that moment, I realized, oh, I had a part in it. And then I realized, how was I being defensive? How was I being aggressive? How was I being passive aggressive? What was my role in it? And it all became clear simply because he was willing to say that to me. It wouldn't have happened if he didn't do that first. Can I be that person who steps out first and say, this is what I take responsibility for. This is mine to do. And when we do that, it creates a connection between us. It does away with that right and wrong thinking, that black and white thinking, and it just allows us to be human in that moment. And in that humanity, connect with our spiritual nature. And in that connection, be able to share with one another and be present to one another. And then go from there. The final tip, accept that pain, tension, and suffering are part of the human learning system. Everyone take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. There are things in life that happen, right? It's not always going to be joyful and beautiful and perfect. There are things that happen in life, and they may cause us pain. Or if we stop and recognize that this is just a part of life, it helps to be present to it and not add the myths, the messages, and the beliefs. Not add the meaning making around that experience. Not let that painful experience turn into resentment, turn into bitterness, turn into years long of not seeing one another, turn into completely disconnecting. Don't let that moment slip by us. Notice, okay, this isn't ideal. This isn't what I had planned. But sometimes life happens. And in that moment, if we can just simply acknowledge it, it's not what I wanted. And it's okay. I'm not going to wrap myself, my meaning of my life in this situation simply because it isn't what I wanted. Simply because it's a little painful or a lot painful. So being present to the pain, allowing it, blessing it, and then returning to your divine nature eliminates the stories around it. And the meaning making that we give it creates the suffering. She says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is more optional. I'm not going to say completely optional, because it's sometimes hard to not wrap our feelings and thoughts around things. But as we start to loosen our grip a little bit around that, then we are lessening and loosening our suffering of it. If we're shifting the myths and the false beliefs that we have about something to create perspective, then we're able to move in that situation and through it with more ease and more grace and less suffering. From a unity metaphysical perspective, Fat Tuesday can symbolize the moment of conscious release. Whenever we're in these situations, we can think back to that celebration of Fat Tuesday of Mardi Gras and recognize I can release it. I can let it go. All of the myths, messages, and beliefs that we have picked up along the way that no longer serve us. And Lent is the renewal of our spiritual consciousness. So as we see these things appear this week, just think of that idea of Mardi Gras and Lent. A release, and sometimes it's a celebration. I think that's the key. If you recognize it, have that self-awareness, celebrate that. Because that is your point of power. That is where your healing comes into play. As soon as we recognize my own self-worth, my own self-awareness, I can practice self-compassion, I can practice self-love, and I can be compassionate to someone else. Let's go to our affirmation. Today, I consciously release the myths, messages, and false beliefs that no longer serve me. I renew myself in the allness of life, love, and wisdom. Let's take that into our time of meditation and affirmative prayer.